All right. It's over. It is thankfully over. It went down not too differently from how I was expecting, and at the end of the day, I'm just glad it's done with. 49-21, and that was with Washington scoring a garbage time touchdown after the 2-minute warning. Although, honestly, Oregon, their last two touchdowns were kind of in garbage time. Whole game was kind of garbage time if we're being real here, but yeah, that's how the season ends. Sad way to go out. We didn't even come close to the spread, which doesn't terribly surprise me. I said in the pregame video, if Oregon wants to win this game, they're going to be able to win this game by a lot, and I didn't see any way to avoid that. So I'm not upset. I'm not sad. It's a little bit gross that you can't get a little bit more going in your big rivalry game. So I completely understand that some Huskies fans are going to have a little more of a visceral reaction to what we saw tonight. But for me, I just want to see what happens next. I want to see what happens in this bowl game, and I want to see what happens next season, where, believe me, things are going to be very different next year. If this team doesn't take big strides forward, if this team does not move to a 9-win type of season, then I'm going to be pulling the cord on the Jedd Fisch era, which I know some Huskies fans already have. I'm not there yet, but it wouldn't take that much for me to get there. Things need to turn around quickly. We're getting some better players in. We're getting some better recruits in. It's a pretty decent class. A guy like a Devin Williams Jr. should be a lot better next year. And by the way, absolutely a bright spot tonight for the Huskies. I thought he played well. And this was behind an offensive line that gave him no chance. And to me, more than anything else, that told the story of this game. That was why this game couldn't even be interesting. There was like a little bit of interest at halftime when we were only down 2 touchdowns and we were going to get the ball coming out of the second half, where I could kind of see, okay, maybe we'll actually be able to make Oregon sweat a little bit at the least, but the offensive line, man, they didn't have a chance. And I get there's a talent deficiency there, but I felt like it went a little bit deeper than that. I felt like Oregon was just, they had more motivation. And in fairness, they do, right? This Oregon team has lost to Washington 3 times in a row. Washington is in many ways responsible for Oregon's seasons not going as they wanted the past 2 years. So they had reason to show up and do the things that they did, but that doesn't necessarily make it okay. But yeah, if there's anything I can say about this game, Devin Williams Jr. played a good game. Whenever he had time to do stuff, it seemed like he could do stuff. Now, I will say, I am going to go ahead and say that some of the sacks are on him. There are definitely some plays where he drops back and he sees the pass rusher coming at him, and he doesn't react well. He stands there and just gets sacked, which is really not okay, right? If you see the blitzer coming, if you see the pass rusher coming, and you're Devin Williams Jr., who is basically Kyler Murray, you should be able to do something to make that guy miss. And there are some plays where he just stood there and took it. And there are some other plays where he just needs to be a little more decisive. But very accurate, made some nice plays, did some positive things with his legs. I mean, you got to understand that we lost so many yards on sacks in this game that you're going to look at these rushing stats and you're going to think he had a terrible game, but no, he was actually cranking out the yardage with his legs relatively reliably, I thought. On the plays where he could get past the line of scrimmage, he was grinding up yards. So, Devin Williams, I like him. I've always liked him, but I wasn't sure if I really liked him. And the size is going to continue to be a problem. He doesn't have the greatest arm, but his playmaking ability is really dynamic and special. And I'm excited to see what happens in 2025 with him. So, him and I would say the receivers. I thought the receivers played well. Boston, Hunter, Giles Jackson. I thought those 3 guys brought it the best that they could. But we had no running game and we had no offensive line, and that equals what we had tonight, which is a game where you put together a few good drives, but there's no consistency and there's no reliability because Jonah Coleman had as bad a game as Jonah Coleman could ever have, averaging like a quarter of a yard per carry. Really, really tough. And it's not his fault. We know that. We've watched Jonah Coleman all year. He's a very good player. He didn't suddenly forget how to play football right before he played Oregon. No. Oregon shut him down because our offensive line was paper mache. And that to me is just the story of the game. And that's why, look, I kind of expected the defense to get mowed over. I really did. But there was an opportunity here to at least keep up with Oregon for some of the game or even most of the game. And we couldn't do it because the offensive line did what they did. So I'm going to see what happens next year before I judge. Now, the defense, that was kind of sad. And they started out pretty good, too. They actually had some good plays in the first half. They forced a couple of punts. They were able to get off the field. They forced a turnover that created a free field goal for Washington. But when the rubber met the road, they had no ability to stop the run. Oregon averaged 6 yards a carry, and for most of the game, it kind of felt like they were just grinding out 6 yards per carry. Like, literally, 6 yards, 6 yards, 6 yards, 6 yards. No ability to stop them reliably around the line of scrimmage, or very, very minimal. I think they had one carry in this game of over 20 yards. That's how consistent they were. This isn't one of those games where one running back has like an 80-yard run, and then the rest of the game he's getting 2 yards in a cloud of dust. No, it was just over and over and over and over and over again. Their linemen are much better than ours. And no pass rush whatsoever on Gabriel. No ability to really make him uncomfortable. And when we did, he just rolled out and usually made a play. And at the worst, he would just throw it into the sideline and get another play. No sacks on him, I think. If we did get a sack on him, I don't remember it. Secondary, I thought, played pretty decently, actually. I thought that there were a lot of plays where Gabriel dropped back and he had all day, but he couldn't find anybody open, and he would just kind of hang back there for over and over and over, patting the ball, and eventually something would happen. But I'm not down on the game the secondary played, I guess, but that front got completely mauled. Absolutely destroyed. I don't know how else to put it other than that. The front of Washington, there is something to be said there about, like, effort. There is something to be said there about drive, because you're playing your rival. You're playing the number one team in the country. And you had a chance to make a big statement before the season ended. And you didn't do it. So, I'm not saying everything is okay, but at the same time, even if all the things that I talk about didn't happen and everything had broken our way, not really feeling like we win, so I don't feel the need to get too twisted up about it. And yeah, that's how the season ends. Only other thing I can think of really to say is early in this game we tried to pooch kick our kickoffs, and it was a disaster. And that got on my nerves because Oregon had great field position on 2 drives, specifically because we did it was like the watermelon kick almost. It wasn't actually the watermelon kick, but the idea was similar. And you're giving Oregon good field position. You know exactly what they're going to do. Never do that again. Other than that, I'm just kind of shrugging my shoulders and moving on. See you guys later. Bow down to Washington, and hope for better things with our last game of the year, whoever and whatever it may be.